Today we're going to talk about how to tone your inner thighs. If we just take a look at subcutaneous fat, that's the superficial fat right underneath the skin, that actually is a healthy fat. It's used as a safe storage of fat. And by the way, fat typically is potential energy. It's used to help us survive. So you have a subcutaneous or superficial fat. Then you have something called visceral fat. That's the fat around the organs. It's usually in the belly. So if you look down at your shoes and you can't see your shoes, chances are you have visceral fat. And that is not a good type of fat. That's an inflammatory fat. It's a very unhealthy type of fat because the fat cell is no longer taking in fat because it's damaged with something called insulin resistance. Then it gets stored around the organs and also inside certain organs. Number 3, we have liver fat. It's fat inside the liver. This fat, by the way, is the easiest to get rid of. Super fast to reverse this in days or weeks. But the fat around your thighs is what we're going to focus on. It's not only very different, it's the most difficult to get rid of. The fat is not just underneath the skin superficially. The fat is inside the muscle fibers itself. Very similar to if you've ever seen Wagyu beef, where you have this marbled fat. That's what's happening in the thighs. And with Wagyu beef, people buy it because it's delicious and it's very tender. It's tender because there's not much collagen in there. And so that's not really a healthy state when you don't have collagen. So the cows that they raise to develop this muscle have certain genetics that have a tendency to become like this, and they have to overfeed them and not give them much activity. And so if we compare and contrast in this situation with the thighs, there's also a severe loss of muscle because that fat is overtaking the space of the muscle and kind of suffocating it with fibrous scar tissue. If we look at an advanced case of this, especially when people get older, what that person has been dealing with is a slow, gradual loss of muscle with the replacement of fat and scar tissue. And with that comes a major loss of the stem cells that are supposed to be making the muscle cells. And of course, we're going to get less contractions. We're going to get less ATP energy. We're going to get more insulin resistance. When you have insulin resistance in the muscle can't really get the fuel anymore. We have a situation where the fat around the muscle is not in a healthy state. It's a very abnormal type of fat around the muscle. And for those of you that want to know the term for that, the medical term, it's called myosteatosis, which is fat outside the fat cell, and it's deep inside the muscle structure. And we can call that intramuscle fat. Now that you know what it is, let's talk about a couple other unique things, okay? The fat that is next to your muscle must be burned locally. Now, if you take a look at liver fat, the liver can actually have that fat transported into another part of the body where it's burned as energy, but the muscles can't do that. So all the fat around the muscles must be burned by the muscle itself. But the problem is, the machine that's supposed to burn that fuel is broken. So we have this massive fuel reserve around the muscle that just can't be burned because we don't have enough machine or muscle to burn that fuel. Now, I'm going to show you a step-by-step on how to recover that and how to fix that. But you just need to know that when you start to fix it, you probably will not see much weight loss. And the problem with that is most people, if they don't see weight loss, they will get frustrated really quick and they will give up. And unfortunately, that's a really big mistake because as you start to reverse this process, you won't see any weight loss. You won't see any visible change at all because all that change is happening deep in the cells of the muscle, which you're not necessarily going to do an MRI or a CAT scan to see it. But that has to heal before you start seeing weight loss and any visible changes. So now let's dive into how to fix this. The goal should be repair damaged muscle cells. If you notice, I didn't say lose weight because I really want you to differentiate losing weight versus fixing the muscle cells, you actually don't want to lose weight because the real problem is not in the weight gain, it's in the damaged machine that helps you burn the fat. It's kind of like you're in your car and you're trying to arrive somewhere, but you have to realize you have to fix the engine first, right? Now, I'm going to reference just one study on this topic just to be very realistic and not to set you up for any expectations and then have you get frustrated. In a 12-week study of what I'm going to tell you, there was actually no weight loss, okay? But they did reduce muscle loss by 15%. Now, right off the bat, you're going to be like, oh my God, why even try? It's like, that's so insignificant. Again, let me remind you, we have to fix the machine. We have to fix the muscle. The muscle is literally dying. There's not a lot of muscle left. So we have to fix that. In other words, I want you to think long term. And instead of weighing yourself on the scale every week, I'm going to recommend you focus on strength, okay? Because that's one indicator that is going to happen a lot sooner. And that is your new measurement of improvement. Do you see that you're stronger over a period of time? That means it's working because you're getting more muscles. And another indicator that you should look for is your appetite and your hunger should go down, because this means that you're reversing your fuel from just burning sugar to burning your own adipose fat tissue. And when you burn this, you generate ketones and you basically lose your appetite, you lose your hunger, which is an indication that you're burning fat. But again, for the third time, I'm going to re-emphasize this. Our goal is to fix the muscles, to help you grow muscles. Because the more muscle that you have, the faster and easier it's going to be to burn off the fat around the muscles. But you haven't been able to because you haven't had enough muscle to be able to take care of that fat, to utilize that fat as energy. So the underlying first root cause of this whole thing is inactivity, having a sedentary life, not exercising, not being mobile enough. So that's how it starts. But then other things develop on top of that. Insulin resistance, probably because of the diet. But also, the more fat you have in your body, the more that can actually cause insulin resistance as well. And then the decrease in mitochondria, that's your energy factories, because we're going to have this right here. And this destroys the mitochondria. And then inflammation happens, and then you get scar tissue. And on top of that, if you add aging, and then you end up with this ratio of high fat, low muscle in the thighs. Here's what you're going to do. Number one, you're going to start exercising, but you're going to do a very specific type of exercise called eccentric exercises. These exercises are slow and you're lengthening the muscle. If I were to hold myself on a chin-up bar, I would hold it and then I would slowly let myself down and elongate the arm. Now with the legs, what you're going to do in an eccentric move is you're going to, without any weight at all, you're going to do a squat, very controlled elongation of a muscle. And the reason why I'm going to recommend you to do this is because it's the strongest stimulus of muscle activation. So we can really start building these muscles up by doing this type of exercise. And depending on your strength, you might have to have some type of assistance to get yourself back up. So maybe it's a elastic band where you actually hold on to something, where you let yourself down and you pull yourself back up. Or maybe it's an end of a chair where you're coming down and you can pull yourself up. The point is you're going to start with those exercises. Even walking slowly down a hill is an eccentric type exercise, which is very therapeutic. And it's not always that easy, but it's going to create the strongest stimulus to get the ball rolling. Now, when I go through all these exercises, one really important thing is, especially when you get started, is that you're going to be really sore the next day or the next 2 days. And I really want you to give your body enough rest between these exercises so you don't overtrain. So I'm just pointing it out because if you do this every single day, you're not going to recover. The recovery or the rebuilding of the muscles occurs in those days off or when you're sleeping. But the eccentric exercises are going to be most important to stimulate the stem cells and the mitochondria. Okay, that's number one. Number two, is you're going to do a lot of walking. If you're at work or something, take the stairs, walk as much as you can. And also you want to be walking after meals, even if it's 5 minutes, but you want to be walking off that sugar and keep those muscles using fuel in your lower body. Now, the other thing too is I'm going to recommend you only do 2 meals per day, a lunch and dinner, or even better yet, 1 meal a day. Early dinner. That would be the ideal situation. Because that way you'll have enough hours of fasting to actually have many, many other benefits that are going to speed this process up. Because when you fast, you turn on pretty much every survival gene that you have. It's super therapeutic. And when you're fasting, your muscles in your thigh need fuel, and they're going to go after the fat around the muscles or inside the muscles. And especially if you're increasing the demand of the fuel by walking. So you want to be walking after a meal and even doing a walk when you're fasting. Okay. That way we can create this vacuum and kind of suck the fat right out of it. And then you're going to start to graduate into doing little sprints or high intensity interval training, depending on your age, your fitness level. And of course, if you're a little bit older or more fragile, you're not going to be doing this. But if you can do this, I recommend it because this is a high intensity interval training activity because you're only doing a very short burst of high intensity. It's the high intensity that activates these muscle cells, right? This is another thing that you should know. And the more intense load that you can put that muscle under, the better the response. You're sending a signal to that muscle saying, you got to get bigger fast because we have to compensate. And then the muscles start reacting to that and they start growing and they get bigger and bigger. Now you're getting a bigger machine to burn the fat around your thigh muscles. When you're doing sprinting or high intensity interval training, whether it's burpees or certain types of squats, you're using your large muscles and that's what you want to do. I'm talking about the gluteus maximus, your butt muscle, your thigh muscle, your hamstrings. That's what you want to focus on. Step-ups are really good workouts, and I will put some links down below, or even walking lunges are awesome, okay? And these are things that you should do 2 to 3 times per week, depending on where you are in your program and how much soreness that you experience. We already talked a little bit about this, 2 meals, okay, a day, or even 1 meal would be better. And then low carb. You're going to do low carb. I will put a link down below of what you should eat, but we don't want to be adding more carbs in here because all those carbs are going to be turning into fat. Some really key nutrients to support the mitochondria that I would recommend that you focus on, maybe taking a supplement or eating more foods high in these nutrients. Magnesium, because magnesium feeds the motor in the mitochondria directly. Vitamin D, the most important vitamin for inflammation and also helping you with your metabolism and the mitochondria. And omega-3, which is very important in reducing inflammation. Number 6, sleep is essential. If you're not sleeping, you will not be able to burn fat. Most of the fat that you're going to burn happens when you sleep. And again, I'll reemphasize, recovery needs to happen on the days after you work out. You need to just do some mild walking. Number 7, periodic prolonged fasting will greatly help you too. So maybe once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, you do a fast for 48 hours or maybe even 72 hours. That's when your muscles are going to really use up that intracellular fat and crank up the dial. And also, you're going to be going through a condition called autophagy, which is you're going to recycle a lot of the scar tissue that's in the leg muscles as well. And in that stage, you might want to just do some mild walking, not do the heavy exercise when you're doing prolonged fasting because you'll benefit more. We want to do a lot of cleaning of the damaged proteins, and we don't want to activate the stress response when we're fasting. Another thing you could do is a cold plunge, or maybe you can just do it with a cold shower. When you add cold to the lower legs, you can create a condition where you're mobilizing a lot more mitochondria activation because your body's trying to maintain 98.6. To do that, it has to generate a tremendous amount of heat. And so we're not generating ATP anymore, that energy, we're generating heat. So it's a way of wasting a lot of energy as heat. And this is what we want to do. We want to use up a lot of this fat. It's much easier to do these cold plunges just to go down to your waist, not the whole body. What we're doing is we're doing a massive remodeling on the inside of your leg muscles, deep inside your regrowing muscles. And that does take time. It could take months. It could even take a couple years. But just realize your measurement for improvement is going to be strength, okay? Because you're going to be becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. And that means it's working. Now that you have this information, there's another similar video I've done on how to get rid of hip fat that you should watch right here. Check it out right now.